Hallelujah! I just got done watching God's Not Dead 2, the sequel entry into the breakout franchise from PureFlix, aka Christian Netflix, a niche streaming service that I gladly fork over real-life money to, because it makes me feel like I'm watching movies with my best bud Jesus. We laugh together about my mortal sins, we'll go to last brunch together, and sometimes we'll road trip down to Purgatory and play beach volleyball with the floating ghost of an unbaptized baby. But would Jesus approve of this bigger budget follow-up? Does it pack the same Christian punch as the first movie? Will it adequately work conservatives into a fervor of false persecution and victimization? Well, that's a bet you can hang your cross on. Or if you're Jesus, it's a cross that you can bet you'll be hanged on. I just said I'm good friends with Jesus. I'm allowed to joke about his execution. It's time to get anointed with another 2 hours of self-important preachy dialogue, cartoonish politically liberal monsters, and an eventual resolution that's so brilliantly simple, you'll actually start to wonder why the movie just didn't create a more difficult central conflict. All that and a bad haircut on today's PureFlix installment of Clip Breakdown. Hello television viewers, my name is Nick. Thank you so much for joining me once again on my channel for another holy installment of Clip Breakdown. This is the playlist where we break down your favorite movies, TV movies, and other content here on the web into little bitty clips and bits that we can look at individually to say, that's godly and Christian, and that over there is the PC police coming to make sure I can't say Merry Christmas anymore. That's the energy that this movie gives off. It's very like, I won't be afraid to say Jesus. I don't care if you say the word Jesus in school. Just don't use Jesus to prevent me from marrying someone else with a penis or prevent me from getting my abortions. You know, in theory. That was a crazy start. But before we get into it, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more clip breakdowns just like this. There's a lot of PureFlix, and there's another movie after this, so trilogy vibes. Also, make sure you click subscribe. That's way you never miss new videos from me. Just like the first movie, God's Not Dead 2, it starts with like kind of introducing all of the characters over a fun Christian song by Newsboys, the Christian rock band that was heavily infused into the first movie. There's a lot of retreading the classics here. And of course, you know, the PureFlix co-founder, David A.R. White, is the main character, once again as Reverend Dave, giving us a classic performance, as always. Don't worry, Pastor Dave, I read the book of Job from the Old Testament, and it seems like your rough day should run its course eventually. Right after God has your livestock, servants, and 10 children all murdered before covering your body in painful sores. But as long as you remain grateful for all of those blessings, God will reward you with, actually I forget, a sense of accomplishment. Is that really it? He can't at least adopt a star for me like I did for my sick cousin? Fine, I'm gonna buy my own star, and I'm gonna name it you, God. Have fun looking at that out your window every morning in heaven. As for David A.R. White, you would think that by inserting himself into every PureFlix project that he produces, he would eventually get the hang of this whole acting thing. Or at least find a hairstylist who isn't stuck with the same 2003 Abercrombie and Fitch catalog model haircut. You look like you're playing someone's dad on the OC. I don't even believe the way you sampled that banana slice. Don't overthink the way you eat fruit just because you have to slow it down for the camera tilt. That thoughtful expression makes it look like he was deciding to swallow the red pill. It always feels a little privileged when people claim that any religion is the key to happiness if you'd only believe, because the fact of the matter is roughly 50% of the population struggles with real mental illness that prevents them from living their best life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stigma around mental health treatment. That plus high costs really prevent a lot of people from getting the help they deserve. That's why I'm so grateful to the sponsor of today's video, Cerebral. Cerebral is a mental health subscription that provides clients with ongoing comprehensive access to online care and medication management for anxiety, depression, and insomnia for one flat monthly rate. Treatment is also available for ADHD, bipolar disorder, and substance use in certain states. Cerebral offers both evidence-based therapeutic techniques as well as medication prescriptions when necessary, because doing both at the same time tends to to show the best results for people like us. And because Cerebral operates on a telemedicine model, you can schedule video calls or phone calls with your providers at your convenience. While Cerebral is not a good fit for all conditions or circumstances, for many people, it's an incredible solution. Traditional therapy can also cost from $100 to $500 per session. Cerebral provides options that are a lot more affordable to allow you to access medication, therapy, or both. That's why I'm one of the 225,000 people to have tried Cerebral. Click the link down in the description to get started with Cerebral and access quality mental health care treatment today for as low as $30 for your first month. Don't leave your mental health care up to a prayer. I mean, you can pray also if you want to, but see your therapist, I recommend. Thanks to Cerebral for sponsoring. Let's meet some other characters. Brooke's brother recently died. I've never been so confused. This is so unrealistic to me.
Brooke, we're all upset, but we need to move on.
Honey, you're a junior now. It's your make or break year, so there's no room for self-pity.
Yeah, Brooke, your dead brother would want you to completely forget about him so you have more time to study flashcards. But guess what? He isn't here because he couldn't keep his head in the game for make or break junior year. Also because a car accident killed him, but whatever, you need to stop crying about it. This is the first kind of insulting message that the movie gives us, that if your parents are atheists, then all they care about is money and success, to the point where they won't even be sad if a child of theirs dies. Is that true in general, or do atheistic parents just mean we have Sunday mornings free to go to the farmer's market? Sounds lovely, actually. You, God. That's the name of my star. Every time you look up in the sky, say, "F you, God," because you're looking at my star. Looking at my star. You're gonna be a star, F you, God. I'm gonna make a star out of you. And all that. You, God. You, God. Okay, that was a horrible sip of coffee. I was like, eating that out. I need to chill. I'm obsessed with Melissa Joan Hart. I know she's a Christian in real life. I don't care about that at all. She's good in her Christmas movies on Hallmark, like with the Lonely Heart one. And she's good in this too. I think she's a great actor. She's taking care of her older, ailing grandpa, I wanna say. Played by Pat Boone in his last film appearance before dying.
Honey, you know I'm not gonna be around here forever. You might wanna start thinking about some other guy you wanna have breakfast with.
She's like, I am thinking about it, Grandpa. Thinking about it a lot, but you're still here holding on. Still making the whole hallway smell like pee, so I'm not quite ready to bring anyone over for dinner yet.
What do you say? I take you out for bacon and eggs this morning, my treat.
Not after your last cholesterol test.
I'm 81 years old, and bacon is not gonna be what kills me.
Okay, well, can you ask whatever is going to kill you to progress faster? Because Clarissa Explains It All wants to get railed on this deathbed of yours once she sprays it down with Febreze. Screenwriters just love this archetype of a character taking care of their lovable elder who playfully complains about the healthy food they have to eat. That way the main character can be like, Grandpa, you know the doctor said no more ketamine booty bumps after Labor Day. Now eat your untreated wood shavings, you old goof. Super cute, every movie about a selfless person, but why not acknowledge that being a caregiver also means wiping grandma's ass sometimes? Where's that deleted scene, PureFlix? Put that back in your film. Put that back in it. So as we saw, Reverend Pastor, I mess up the word pastor a lot. I say pasture, as in where cows eat, but it's Pastor. Pastor Dave is having a rough morning, naturally. He even got jury duty on top of spilling his coffee twice. I love how they could think of only coffee-related things, basically, for his bad morning. And he kicked that stool with like the ball of his foot, which would be the least painful way to do it, but he seems to have an injury from it. Anyway, a lot of characters are reprised in this movie. In addition to Pastor Dave, we also have Amy, the person who started to believe in God because of her cancer, and Reverend Jude, who is coming in now. He's like the foreign missionary. There's also Martin, the Chinese exchange student.
You're back. My pastor gave me permission to finish my doctorate at Hadley. So if that's okay with you, I'm gonna be here for a while.
I guess it sort of has to be okay with me, since the Bible tells me to be a pushover and you sort of flew here from Africa as a surprise. Just a refresher, Reverend Jude is the missionary who doesn't get too involved with the main storyline, but he does hang out in the periphery and give worldly advice and sage wisdom to any of the main characters who he happens to encounter while they sit in an otherwise empty church. There's a whole lot of that. If you ever like need spiritual counseling, apparently you can just go sit in an empty church. And according to movies, eventually the priest will come through with like his Bible and be like, "Can I help you, my child?" Yeah, I just killed my whole family. What now? What now? Just from my point of view, I can't help but associate Reverend Jude with the racist Hollywood stereotype of the Uncle Tom character, essentially the man's version of the mammy stereotype. It's bad. The director looked at this guy and was like, "Is it weird if we also make him wear an all-white suit and matching gloves?" Okay, that's too much. That's too much. Anyway, let's go meet Grace, played by Schmace, and her AP history class.
All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights that among them liberty. All right, team one, what's your answer?
We'll take only one half of the room being decorated for $300, Alex. I feel like the art director should have budgeted some of their 6 history posters for the reverse shot, because this blank wall of whiteboards is making me feel like I'm in court-ordered DUI class. It looks a little student filmy to me whenever I can see the distinct glare of the 2 key lights on the back wall. And then screen left has this sort of blue shadowy vignette effect because they couldn't frame the shot so that it was evenly lit for some reason. On a subconscious level, something like this lighting is going to read as instantly artificial and distracting. That's not how we would expect the lighting in a classroom to look when we imagine one from our memories. In real life, we know they use those ugly overhead fluorescent tube lights, and movies can exaggerate that to make the set seem really cold or corporate, sort of like they did in the summer school scene of Big Fat Liar. I've been using that movie as an example so much lately. It's like it's The Godfather. Anyway, normally for a classroom scene like this, you would light it, or I would light it, by turning off those overhead lights and have the key light motivated by one of those big bright windows that line the side of the room. So rather than 2 lights here that are of equal strength, they would focus them on this side of the room, and then they could put directional lamps outside the window shining through those blinds to leave some golden sun splashes on that wall and give it some really nice natural looking interest. I think we also expect to see a teacher's desk back there. Just me. Also, this is supposed to show what a creative and engaging teacher Grace is. So why are the students just grouped into team 1 and team 2? I feel like a teacher like this would let them pick their own historical pun team names, like the George Washington Warriors against the Amelia Air Jordans. I don't know. It's not my job to write the script. You should write a script with details, PureFlix. Give me something to watch. Jesus. I feel like all of these God's Not Dead movies just take too much inspiration from other movies via the formula, and they don't do enough to reskin it outside of making the central conflict Jesus-y. You know, like they're not actually working too hard to make a script that feels real and immersive. In fact, they seem to not know how humans behave at all. It's like they've never interacted with a non-believer in real life that they didn't think was secretly like mass murderer. After class, Grace is like, "Brooke, are you okay? I know your brother is, like you still have his dried blood on your shoes, but like, are you okay?" And she's like, "I'm fine." And then she goes and meets Grace at a coffee shop later, and she's like, "I'm not fine. Can you help me?"
You never let anything get to you. How do you do that? Jesus.
Really? Damn it, okay. I thought you might have like a prescription for Ativan with a few spares lying around. I'm not doing the church thing. Can you buy me a scone though? It's what Jesus would do. Now let's go meet Amy. If you recall, the doctor was like, "Listen, you spent all your time writing liberal blogs and now cancer's eating that up, mama. You got 3 weeks to live." And so the newsboys, she went to their concert to like confront them about God, and they prayed with her, and things seem to have turned around after that. She's still besties with newsboys, by the way. It's just newsboys, not the newsboys. Don't get it wrong.
It's gone. My cancer's... it's gone.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. Prayer is a powerful thing.
The radiation therapy probably helped a little too, but we're choosing not to highlight that because it kind of made you look like a skeleton. And no offense, but skeletons are often found in hell, according to old-timey cartoons. I love that the rest of the band is just watching this conversation like, "Is Amy feeling better? Ask her if she's open to group sex with us now." Catch me never naming my band Newsboys or having the word boys or kids in it when I'm fully 46 years old. It's not the Jesus look I'm trying to wear to school. We love the grandpa.
She's hurting.
Yeah, that's the thing about atheism. It doesn't take away the pain. Just takes away the hope.
Maybe, but wouldn't it arguably also make some people appreciate their lives even more? Because it doesn't depend on the puritanical idea that our earthly existence is meant to be filled with suffering. Also, we can finally feel peace in an afterlife that may or may not actually exist. Like, thanks for your thoughts there, oldie McTerminal Cancer. But just in case there isn't the world's most fun party in a cloud waiting for me after I die, I'm not gonna spend my whole life denying myself earthly pleasures, like casual sex and gossiping about thy neighbor. Thy neighbor is annoying and it begs to be discussed. Every time this guy comes on the screen, he's got some like little maxim to help explain the way God is. Like during the trial, Grace is like, I just feel like since the trial started, I can't feel God at all. And he's like, have you ever noticed that during the test, the teacher stays quiet? And it's like, okay, so when something good happens, it's because God wanted it that way. When I'm on my own, it's because God wanted, like, seems like you have a little rhyme for everything. You have it a lot of different ways. The Salvation Army comes and picks up all of Brooke's dead brother's things, and the parents are like, God, this garbage, get it out of here. It's like seriously upsetting how much the Wizards of Waverly Place mom does not care about her dead son. But the Salvation Army worker gives Brooke the Bible that she didn't even know her brother studied. Secret Christian, secret Christian. It's like, how close were you with this kid? So this further sparks her interest in, finding the light of Jesus, as Grace, her teacher, told her. And the next day, she asks further questions about it in the classroom.
But what makes nonviolence so radical is its unwavering commitment to a nonviolent approach, not just initially, but in the face of escalating persecution by the opposing force.
I'm gonna warn you up top, the Christian characters speak exclusively in overwritten dialogue. They always sound like a priest who's trying way too hard to relate his sermon to the trendiest Netflix show of the moment. The Squid Games is not unlike the Romans' persecution of Jesus. Yes, it is. Talk faster. Brooke is about to up Grace's life with this one question, and I'm here for it. Chaos.
Isn't that sort of like what Jesus meant when he said that we should love our enemies?
Yes. The writer of the Gospel of Matthew records Jesus as saying, love your neighbor and hate your enemy.
You better duck, Melissa. Brad in the third row is texting the PC police right now to come take you away for being good at your job. Obviously, in this movie, some of the students are a little offended that the Bible is being discussed, but I would just be like, damn, you really memorize whole passages like that? It's kind of impressive. I feel like she would bring really good treats to a bake sale. That's what's wrong with the dialogue, is it's so crazy. Like, people are like, their unwavering presence of mind despite an increasing pressure from the opposition of force. Like, if you really talk like that, you're insane. And if you wrote that ahead of time and are now memorizing and reciting it, that's also insane. Here's Martin, the Chinese exchange student. Josh, the main character of the previous movie, who is not in this one, he really encouraged Martin to discover the word of thy Lord, the word of thy Lord. And now he's sent Martin to go meet with Reverend Dave.
How many questions have you got?
So far, 147. Is something wrong?
No.
Not even your terrible fake laughter? Not even how wet your hair always looks? I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong from where I'm sitting.
Josh encouraged me to write them down and be as comprehensive as possible.
Well, I'll have to thank him next time I see him. Come on.
So what's your first question?
Not Pastor Dave having a permanent limp now because of his stunt kick with that IKEA stool this morning. Also, it's cool that he thinks Martin can't recognize his obvious sarcasm and disinterest in answering these questions, despite Martin speaking fluent English and having lived in America for at least a year. Like, the movie doesn't even realize how casually it's dismissive to people of other culture, like non-white cultures. It has a very colonial missionary feel, where it's always very like, oh, gotta teach these people of color about the word of thy Lord, or I'm not doing my white duty. The next day, Grace with a C, I guess. Grace is called into the office of the principal and some other lawyers of the school. And this kind of grumpy teacher from the teacher's lounge is Grace's union rep. So clearly something's wrong.
And your answer incorporated Scripture itself. The words of Jesus.
Yes.
What were you thinking, Grace?
Grace, they're gonna fire you. This is supposed to be the one who's like helping her not get fired, and she's like, you ain't got a lily pad to lilt on, little girl. Obsessed with her name. Her name is Lizzo. It might be Rizzo too, but that's only a little better. I think it's Rizzo Lizzo. They're basically like, did you say the name Jesus in a school, even though Jesus is a proven historical figure?
Coach, you're not hearing me. No prayers. No moments of silence. Nothing. Not on the field, not in the locker room, not in the parking lot for that matter, okay?
And another thing, everyone has to take a knee during the national anthem. I said everyone has to take a knee during the national anthem! And then she sprouts horns and starts playing the fiddle. This is where the movie goes. They're like, cancel religion, persecute the Christians, murder their babies, go back to ancient Egypt. They really want everyone watching to be like, ah, we're under attack, I'm under attack as a member of the majority religion. While at this coffee shop that apparently is one of 3 places Grace is allowed to go in her life, Jesse Metcalf's character comes up. He plays her public defender. His character's name is Tom, and he's not a regular lawyer. He's a cool lawyer with an untucked button-up and jeans. So he's also the youngest one at the firm, and that's how he got this case. He's a non-believer, but he thinks that will help.
Your kind of case makes everybody uncomfortable. School boards, teachers, makes them feel yucky.
Is that a technical legal term?
You got a better word for it?
Yes, the better word was uncomfortable, which you said, and then continued talking for some reason, which made me feel yucky, which is what I call it when I intentionally soil myself to leave a conversation I hate. Works 9 out of 10 times, not in hospitals, unfortunately. He's like, you need someone who's a non-believer to help win this case because I can see it differently from you. I'm not as impassioned by it.
Okay, I agree to let you represent me.
Good.
Good.
I'm gonna knock that empty coffee cup out of your hand, refill it with boiling coffee, and then make you drink it. Also, ever since my first mention of the empty coffee cup phenomenon in a clip breakdown of the Lifetime movie Queen Size, I noticed it's become real popular on Twitter and TikTok to make the same jokes about the empty cup. And I just wanna say, I fully support it. The Badoo, Melissa Joan Hart is good in this movie. Like, she has this moment of prayer with her Lord where she's like, just give me the courage to go through with this, and I believed it. It, I think, adequately sets the stakes where if she loses this case, she's gonna be financially ruined, having to lose her job and pay for all of the lawyer's fees. So the stakes are high. You know, she'll lose everything if this doesn't work out. Once they go into the hearing, the school board is basically like, listen, if you just apologize for saying the word Jesus in school, we'll mark it in your file and we can go on and pretend this never happened. And she takes her lawyer out of the room and she's like, I can't say that. I'm not sorry for saying it. I was just answering the question, which is really what I thought from the beginning. She basically was asked by a student to compare 2 quotes, one from Gandhi / just the basic concept of peaceful protest, and a quote attributed to Jesus in the Bible, which, like, I've known since 7th grade that the Bible is a historical text in addition to being a religious text. Like, just because Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, it doesn't mean there hasn't been plenty of other agnostic proof that he did in fact exist, and several of the events in the Bible have been corroborated. So the whole thing seemed very non-religious to me, where she was like, oh yeah, Jesus said love thy neighbor. Same thing. So you could say a lot of religions have, and cultures and people and backgrounds, like the idea of peaceful protest is nothing new. You could say the same thing about Buddhism or pacifism. It's nothing new to talk about in public school, but apparently she's Hitler.
I would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God. I am not gonna be afraid to say the name Jesus.
Okay, fine, but are you afraid to say, "F me, Jesus"? Oh, that's too scary for you? Fake fan. There's no way you're getting into heaven for teachers if you don't tell Jesus how wet he makes you. That's them rules. So in the room, their school board is like, the American Civil Liberties Union is gonna go after her. They wanna make an example out of her. The school is fine. So we already know she's in for a world of hurt. The ACLU is coming up on that ass. The ACLU is represented by this guy. He plays the devil in a lot of things, I think. Ray Wise. In this movie, he plays Peter Cain. I think named after Cain, as in Cain and Abel, like a traitor who murders. He goes to Brooke's atheist parents and convinces them to sue Grace and the school so that they can make a ton of money. And also they think it will somehow get Brooke into college easier.
Next year, when you're applying to all the colleges, you'll be able to tell the story of how Brooke was part of a landmark constitutional case. There is not an Ivy League admissions board that could resist that.
I'm not as convinced as he is that Ivy League schools think an applicant with a court case is particularly strong, but I'm not an atheistic parent driven by status and wealth, so I'm not really a part of that world. You know, the whole Operation Varsity Blues circuit. They're like, and you'll make a hefty sum of money if we win. Look how evil they play this guy.
Well, there's nothing that changes policy faster than a big, expensive settlement.
We're going to prove once and for all that God is dead.
I don't really see how you're gonna accomplish that since it's not really what this case is about. I think you're getting yourself confused with Kevin Sorbo's character from the first movie, and he died a miserable death at the end. So keep that in mind, non-believers. You're gonna get smashed with a car, you're gonna get, oh, but Brooke's brother was a believer. He had a Bible and he still died in a car accident. Cars are the devil, that's what they're telling us. Jesse Metcalf's character is talking to Grace and he's like, to them, your beliefs are like smallpox, destroying the world. It's like, I, again, don't think this particular example was egregious enough to warrant a civil suit at all. And wouldn't the school want to protect this teacher to prevent a huge amount of negative publicity towards their curriculum, especially when it's very defensible? The amount of daily persecution they portray Christianity undergoing is absolutely ridiculous. It's farcical. But you know that people are watching this on PureFlix thinking this is how the real world is. That the people are trying to pry fucking candy cane out of their hand every Christmas and give them a Starbucks red cup. Candy canes stand for the J in Jesus, so therefore all candy canes should be straight. That's the kind of thing that gets on Fox News every year. They're like, well, there's a war on candy canes now. Well, I will keep my curved candy cane and always keep the J in Jesus. All right, why don't you slide that candy cane up your anus and let it dissolve slowly? That's what I want for Christmas, mama, so maybe we both win that way. Brooke is out on the field, picketing with her other believers of the school, and they feel like it's allowed.
If you don't stop this right now, there are gonna be some consequences.
Actually, I don't think that there will, because this is a sidewalk, which is public property. My dad's a lawyer.
So what, he taught you every law that exists as your father? Also, that's Sadie Robertson, so her dad is not a lawyer. It's actually Phil Robertson of the show Duck Dynasty, who made a cameo of his own in the first movie. Sadie's an actor now. I mean, we just saw her try. David is taking his kind of jury duty initiation not too seriously because he feels like he's not gonna get picked for a jury. He's too religious anyway. So he obviously doesn't think this case is gonna matter. Do you see how the storylines are about to meet up? This is exactly the type of scene where Reverend Jude is like, shouldn't you be watching the video? And he's like, no, no, no. It's like, cut this whole scene, nothing happens in it. Ugh. This movie's 2 hours long. It's just because whoever is in charge had a really hard time letting go of scenes that don't add much to the story. To me, if you want to really distill the message of your movie, make it as short as possible. Get rid of the stuff that we don't need to understand what's happening next. We go into jury selections, and both sides, Grace's and the civil court, whatever, they're like, oh, we don't want that juror, we don't want that juror. And they try to get rid of Reverend Dave, but it doesn't work so well.
The man's an ordained minister.
Jurors excused.
Peremptory challenges cannot be used to discriminate against a certain class of juror based on religion or gender.
Upon further reflection, I find the respondent's assertion is correct.
Alrighty, it's gonna be a tough hearing if we just had to remind the judge what discrimination is during a case with the ACLU. That's like the first of many times where a judge is completely swayed by an objection, as though everything is just an opinion and not just an interpretation of the law. Amy is upset because she doesn't feel God so strongly now that her cancer is in remission.
Effective immediately, this blog is the personal diary of one woman's exploration of faith on her own terms, cancer-free.
If it's a blog, shouldn't you be typing this? Okay. She's a blogger, but every 2 minutes, she's acting like a newspaper reporter. She like got a press hat on from the olden days with a flashbulb camera. It's like, who are you? Who's reading this? Don't tell me the people who were obsessed with your liberal blog where you would literally attack religious people. Like in her last one, she was mad at the Duck Dynasty people for shooting animals. And why would those same blog readers now be like, and now I love how she's and hallelujah Jesus. Anyway, Reverend Dave comes across Martin sitting alone in a church, as always, as they do. And he's like answering more and more of his questions. The bad lawyer intimidates the good lawyer. Cut all of this out. The lawyer doesn't have good shoes. He doesn't dress like a lawyer, so no one believes in him. Oh, we find out that Marlene, who is played by Sadie Robertson, is the niece of Amy, the journalist. So that's how Amy comes to get involved with the case. She's like covering the case for her blog. The school board guy starts talking about what Amy did wrong. This is all a lot of boring ass stuff. The fact that they tried to write like a court case proceedings when they didn't seem to have many legal experts to help edit that part, it makes all of this feel really amateur. Like an episode of Law and Order feels more realistic in terms of how courtroom behavior actually is. And those take great artistic liberties as well.
God bless you. Careful, or you might end up on trial.
Mr. Endler.
God bless you. Don't say it's so slow like that. Just say bless you. God bless you. Sometimes this movie like accidentally says things that are on my side. Like there's a lady on the news being like, if you ask me, the real religious fanatics we need to be worried about are the conservative hardcore Christians. And I was like, she's stating facts. I'm afraid of any religious fanatic. If you're a fanatic, you got car bombs, mama. I don't know what this whole restaurant scene is where it's like the Team America of religious figureheads, which is just like old men with glasses. They couldn't have sprinkled in one woman into this whole thing. Oh, right, women can't be pastors. They probably can, but not according to this movie.
Can they do that?
I'm sure there's no ill intent here.
I think you're wrong. Whether we admit it or not, we're at war. Not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of this world, against the spiritual forces in the heavenly realm.
Am I allowed to keep eating while he monologues? I got the tuna salad and it's not really that great once it's room temperature. I want to know, what even is this cafeteria-based United Nations meeting of clergymen? The head of them all, the lead Darth Vader of them all, is like, we got a subpoena to provide all of the sermons that we've spoken over the last 120 days. And they're like, can they do that? They did it in Texas. So it's like one of those things where they're like, they did it over here, and they call out the one time where it's happened before in the country's history to be like, see, this is setting the precedent. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. They're subpoenaing our sermons to make sure we can't say God in our sermons. It's like, no one's even said why they would subpoena the sermons, and everyone's freaking out about it. It's like, I don't understand why they would do this. They don't give a reason why they would do this. It's literally just like shady fear mongering. And then and David Allred is like, this is a war against the flesh and the blood. Get out your katana and slice into every government official you see. Like, sweetheart. They have dinner that night. Jesse Metcalf. What is his character's name again? Edmund from Narnia? Tom Endler. He's asking Grace what caused her to become a believer. She wasn't raised Christian. She discovered Christianity in her teenage years via billboard. I think this is just like trying to be like, see everybody, those religious billboards we put up next to the desert are really working. They help convert people.
I had this old sign out front. Stopped me in my tracks. The sign said, "Who do you say that I am?"
Oh, is that Emily Dickinson poem about depressed people? Who are you? I'm nobody. Are you nobody too? No, I'm Jesus. Come eat my blood, mama. Come bathe in my piss water. That's what happens. That's what happens. Oh my God. Don't yell at me. That's what happens. Why are you yelling at me? Okay, Martin comes home and his Asian father is Asian mad at him in an Asian stereotype of way. Because you know, all Asian parents are strict and tell their kids what they can and cannot do, even though, you know, there are already 44 million people who identify as Christian in China, so it's not that strange. According to this, if you're not an American flag waving Christian, you got it wrong. You don't believe in God the right way. You gotta get some of that white, good old boy Christianity that kills the gays and drags them behind their trucks. I know, it's graphic. That's the world we live in, son of a gun. So basically, Martin gets disowned by trying to open his father's eyes to the Lord. His father's like, don't you talk about that in front of my imperial map of the United States. So Martin goes to the church alone. They always go to the church alone. Like a 7-Eleven, it's always open. So he goes and plays a little ditty, plays a little song. He's musical. You didn't know?
That was beautiful.
Forgive me, but I did not know anyone was here.
Oh, no, please don't apologize.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Really? Because that's literally the only thing you could have possibly accomplished by speaking during my song. The portrayal of Martin as this ingratiated, apologetic Asian immigrant is the kind of racism that conservatives don't even realize is racism. Because they don't even see that as a harmful stereotype. They really think that's what's up. Just like conservatives can't see that the haircuts and clothes they dress their kids in make them look like Hitler Youth Nazis running around picking up eggs on Easter Sunday. Someone had to say it. Actually, nobody did. But a lot of the stuff I say is kind of unnecessary. That's the First Amendment right this movie loves so much. Sorry about it, baby. The more they talk about her religion, the more Grace becomes inspired with their new angle for this whole hearing. She's like, wait, I've got it. I'm the one having ideas even though you're supposed to be the lawyer.
I didn't talk about Jesus as my Lord and Savior. All I did was comment on quotations attributed to Jesus the man, and I did it in AP history.
Yeah, where you were also quizzing them on basic things about the Declaration of Independence, which is probably why none of the students at this school are passing their SATs. Also, I've been making this point about Jesus as a historical figure from the beginning, so I guess I'm a cool genius too.
This is our defense. Jesus as a historic figure, just like everyone else. And you know what? Kane will never see it coming.
Why, because it's so obvious? The fact that the screenwriter markets this to be some groundbreaking revelation just proves that they assume everyone in the audience is a complete idiot of some sort, who couldn't have immediately come up with that argument an hour ago. I understand that not everybody might realize that Jesus of Nazareth is proven to have existed, and most historians agree that he was a real person. But if you're a practicing Christian, like, wouldn't you already be well aware of that fact? It seems like they're trying to teach Christians that. They're like, don't worry, we have science for this part. Next, what's his name brings in some historian who is like, oh yeah, if you don't believe Jesus exists, you're just not looking at the facts. Like, there's plenty of facts. Then Reverend Jude is in empty church consoling Amy. Amy's whole job in any of these movies is to have red hair, lose her faith, and let some man remind her to keep believing. Like, just play a Journey song and move on with your life. She has no agency of her own. Reverend Dave appears at the courthouse, some sort of law place, to provide his sermons that have been subpoenaed. And the guy at the courthouse is like, this is all your sermons? It's just one sheet of paper. And he's like, no, that's a letter explaining why I won't be providing them. And he's like, excuse me?
I know it's unusual for a Christian pastor to willfully resist a subpoena issued by a lawful government authority. And it's even more unusual that he should feel compelled to do so.
Not as unusual as you describing it like a freshman film student who's trying to come up with meaningful, deep dialogue. I know it's unusual for a Christian pastor to willingly resist a subpoena from a lawful governing body, and even more unusual that he would feel compelled to do so. You better shut the f up. Every time someone has more than one line of dialogue, it becomes a full-on sermon. Sunday school sermon. Also, how is it even more unusual that you felt compelled to resist the subpoena than it was for you to actually resist it? Oh, that was just nonsense because saying two things instead of one is a better movie for some reason? Very cool, very cool. There's nothing I dislike more than dialogue that is just talking for talking's sake. Like, those two things were already out of order. I know it's unusual to feel compelled to resist a blah blah blah, and even more unusual for me to not cooperate with the law. You know, like, then it's in a logical order. But the screenwriter didn't even care. They just wanted to write things that made Reverend Dave sound like he's calm, cool, and in control of the situation. You're not in control. The atheistic government, as represented by this one guy eating ribs, is not happy.
You know the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, don't you? I have another saying. A nail that sticks up gets hammered down.
That was such a weird way for the legal secretary to say he wants to f that priest. He said, I'm gonna grease your wheel with the gristle from those baby back ribs I was eating and hammer you so hard you'll stop believing in God. I'd be like, okay, you flirt. Pick me up at 8. Also, is this guy supposed to be the principal of America? Why is he even so personally invested in what's in this envelope anyway? He's like, I personally am insulted by this thing, even though I'm not necessarily the president. Also, I love that he was like, you know the expression, the squeaky wheel gets the grease? Good, I just wanted to make sure you were familiar with expressions so that I could then say one that's completely different and means something else. Because again, when you say two things instead of one, people get confused into thinking a good thing happened. I'm not ever going to believe this is clever dialogue, because it's not. It's just overwritten, which I could already tell by looking at the runtime of the movie. If you can't make your point within like 6 words, you don't have a point. You're trying too hard to convince me. But Reverend Dave walks out of there at least feeling the love of God stabbing him in the chest. That's how Jesus felt on the cross. That's what happens. You disobey the law for Christy reasons, instant stigmata. Amy gets on the news and she's like taking this staunch defense of grace, and everyone's like, I can't believe you changed your opinion so much. Then back on the stand, Reverend Dave collapses. Oh my God, is he gonna be okay? I hope he dies, or I hope he doesn't, but whatever.
Because they just lost the only juror they could count on.
Does this hurt? How about this? I hope you're not too attached to your appendix.
Imagine being a lawyer and openly laughing in the courtroom because one of your jurors needs emergency medical attention. They're like, could be a brain bleed. Also, I'm glad the Hope Falls paramedics are trained to instantly diagnose appendicitis just using touch. They're like, oh yeah, that hurt. Hope you're not too attached to your appendix. I am. There's connective tissue, but you're gonna sever it. Why are you talking like that? Just for the sake of the audience to know what's happening? Okay, cool. So it's appendicitis, not, I don't know, malignant cancer. Because that's Amy. That's Amy who has that, remember. So they bring in this alternate juror who, oh God, this is not looking good for us.
Ms. Marshall, are you prepared to fulfill your duties as an alternate?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Objection, honey, you're not prepared. Your Honor, I hold this juror in contempt of court due to her busted looking lipstick. I wasn't sure what kind of lip look they were going for back when they showed her with her makeup fresh done earlier. But now it's time for the close-up on her one and only line, and no one wanted to touch up that chewed off, everlasting gobstopper looking lip residue. Okay. I guess the makeup artist went home early that day. Jesse Metcalf brings another writer onto the stand. He's like cold case FBI agent who then wrote a book to corroborate like some of the tales in the Bible.
And are you the author of the book, Cold Case Christianity?
Yes, I am.
Can you share the subtitle of the book with the court, please?
A homicide detective investigates the claims of the Gospels.
Great, now can you please state its international standard book number as well as verbally spell out the Amazon URL where the audience at home, I mean the jury here in this scene, can purchase it for further reading after the movie. I mean at the conclusion of this court case in the movie that we made to plug your book. Yeah, he's a real author. A little bronzer for the gentleman on the book tour. Bronzer's gay for Christian people, they can't do it.
Successful conspiracies typically involve the fewest number of people. And that's really the problem with the conspiracy theories related to the apostles. There are just far too many of them trying to hold this conspiracy.
Oh really? Was that also true when the Vatican involved hundreds, if not thousands of people in a conspiracy to cover up and silence the victims of child sex abuse from hundreds, if not thousands of priests and other clergy people? Like, is this really the door you want to open? Is this the alleyway you want to walk down, sir? Because I think there have been larger religious conspiracies than 12 apostles acting like they had dinner with one guy. If the other lawyer was any good, he would have crucified this author on the stand. Figuratively speaking. I'm not talking about the actual historically proven method that they used to torture and execute Jesus Christ. I had to say it just because I know how much Christians love a literal interpretation. That's how the Filet-O-Fish got invented. Indirectly, I mean. I don't need anyone fact-checking this content too closely, okay? I can interpret the Bible any way I want to, right down to its pronunciation. Speaking of the McDonald's fish sandwich, our girl Brooke is about to get filleted and battered and fried on the stand. Forever discussing her brother's death with a trusted adult, which is obviously the main problem that all non-Christians have with the world. Through Brooke's testimony, they realized that there was also a conversation she had with Grace outside of school about Jesus, which is obviously not a legal issue, but the jury feels like they were lied to. They're like, oh my God, this teacher has been trying to get Brooke to be into Jesus. She would have never asked that question if she hadn't put the idea in her head. And Brooke's like, I mean, she said the word Jesus to me, but then I read my dead brother's Bible and then I had Jesus in my heart. Like, can you all chill? So Brooke and her friends are doing the lordly work of picketing outside, or at least watching that happen.
Hey Brooke, why don't you go be with Miss Wesley? I think we can handle this.
Oh, you got all the sitting around doing nothing covered? Thank you. I guess I'll go sit in that trial that's literally about me now. I'm so glad these girls practiced their sincere, lips-only smiles. They both said, okay, filled with the Lord. We're at what ends up being the final day in court, and at first, Grace's lawyer is nowhere to be found until he finally comes in and shows us that he's done playing softball.
Sorry, Your Honor. My apologies to the court.
I was at the Men's Warehouse renting this suit for my friend's wedding later on. I don't hate how the use of costume design was used to show Jesse Metcalf's evolution from unbuttoned, messy-haired lawyer to a professional one who's able to play ball. But some subtlety would have been appreciated. Like, he did tuck in his shirt one scene, I noticed, when he went into court. But I would have liked if his costumes got gradually more formal with each court appearance. And then here, in his final evolution, he has like the slicked hair. We realize for the first time, oh, he's really matured as a lawyer. Something a little bit more gradual so that it's really cool if an audience doesn't even realize how the character has been growing or changing over the course of the movie until it's over. And then they're like, oh, wow, yeah, he's really come a long way. Remember when we first met him? That kind of thing. Tom shocks everyone in the court when he calls his own client Grace to the stand. She wasn't even expected to testify as a witness in his own trial because she wouldn't usually have to. And he instantly is like, Your Honor, can I treat this witness as hostile? And the judge is like, sure.
I want you to say you're sorry and that you made a mistake.
I can't do that.
The other night, didn't you tell me that Jesus spoke to you personally? What did he ask you? Answer the question!
See, the judge is like badgering the witness. I'll allow it. Tom gets really passionate and screaming and making and Melissa Joan Hart cry on the stand, basically being like, if we go down this road, we gotta hang her in the county square. How dare she have a religious belief? Like, he's building to something, although I feel like the message gets a little lost.
Let's set a new precedent. That employment by our federal government mandates that you must first announce any belief system you have. And if they resist, well, let's not kid ourselves. Enforcement is always at the end of a gun.
Make him stop, I can't take it. Obama caused all of this by being black. I just know all the conservative Christians were watching this like, the first part about us not being able to pray was really scary. I am, in fact, an oppressed minority. But at the same time, did anyone else get a little turned on when he said the word gun and implied that we get to shoot her? Okay, good, so I'm not crazy. Actually, you are, but you're NRA Christian crazy, which for some reason in this country is still more employable than being a mentally stable person with the name Jose. The whole audience is clearly touched by how hurt, I guess, Grace looks, like they feel bad for Grace. And I guess it's really just about making the jury see like, oh, it's actually evil to say that she can't bring her beliefs into the classroom. Even though she never did, and that was never the issue. It's literally about bringing a religious text up. Like, this same issue could have happened for a non-Christian teacher who just happened to be familiar with the Bible. Because again, they were asked a direct question about the Bible. What was she to do? Not answer the question Brooke asked and be like, I've actually never heard of Jesus or the Bible, so you should eat shit on your way out. Grace looks at her lawyer. She's like, Tom, how could you do this? And Tom is like, I got a plan. He doesn't explain it to her ever. So she's praying, and then finally, the court rules in favor of Grace. She's free. She's not going to prison.
We are adjourned.
Did someone release wild loons into the court? All I hear is one extra repeatedly going, woo! Woo! It must already be time to start warming up for the courthouse choir rehearsal that's scheduled in here after this. I always am noticing the cheering in a background scene like this because on a set, you'll have the extras all pretend to be clapping and cheering, but it's silent so that you can hear the actual dialogue and it's clean. And then afterwards, the sound designer will hold the boom mic usually and be like, okay, background, we're gonna record wild background sound now. Wild means you're just recording the audio without any video component. So they record like 2 or 3 minutes of the whole room just being like, oh yes, oh my God, like you have to give them a lot of the unbroken background noise so that they can mix it together and cut all the edits. But because you're not actually cheering and the people can kind of just be sitting in their chairs, some people make weird decisions that stick out, like going, woo, woo, woo. Woo! Grace almost can't believe that the jury swayed in favor of her, but God was on her side and on the back of someone's neck. See, Grace, is just like the Bible says, thou shalt not judge using only thine eyes, for even the manager of Hot Topic may believeth in God. I'm obsessed with back of the neck Christian girl acknowledging Grace silently like she's one of the ghosts from The Sixth Sense. She said, congrats on your case. I'm scheduled to be the featured extra in a Creed music video next, so I gotta go. Jesse explains his whole, attack there. I'm not sure I get it.
I'm sorry. I couldn't tell you. Had to come as a surprise, otherwise the jury wouldn't have been swayed by your reactions.
And that's the stupidest idea you've had so far. No lawyer in their right mind would want to put their defendant on the stand and then completely railroad them and surprise them. Like, anything could have happened. She could have gotten mad and belligerent and started attacking him back, and that would have completely turned the jury against her. Like, it was risky, and I still don't really get how it works. Like, he really just pulled the Uno reverse card. Everyone at Newsboys was praying for Amy as well. I don't know why there's like a daytime concert going on now. Like, it's bright middle of the day and they're like at Staples Center like at night, but okay. Anyway, Brooke gets the results of the jury and runs out to the courthouse crowd and lets everyone know it's the end.
I'll be on my knees with my hands lifted.
God's not dead.
Yay! That's not really what was on trial, and it doesn't really make sense to us why she would say that, but it's f***ing hot out here, and we're out of powdered Gatorade mix, so it sounds like a victory to me. Woo! I gotta admit, the movie ends, and I'm still having trouble figuring out the mechanics of how Jesse's reverse psychology really changed the course of this entire trial in the last minute. Even our antagonists seem a little confused about what just happened.
He played our role in attacking Wesley. He made the jury hate everyone, but her.
Not to mention, you proved the existence of Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's not even f***ing true, Bonnie McBad lighting. He literally just pointed out that the physical existence of Jesus Christ was already a well-established fact that was never up for debate. And as a lawyer, you should know the difference. I went to public school, and whenever Christianity came up for any reason, there was always one kid who had to be like, why are we talking about Christianity in public school in America? And it's like, well, Jimmy, it's because hundreds of years ago, that was the religion our white ancestors used to justify the colonization and slaughtering of the native people who lived here first. Also, your dumbass would have a basketball court to play on at recess. So shut the f up. It's not this specific history teacher's fault that our country was born out of white Christian colonialism. Like, write a letter to the editor about it. Grace is like, this is her moment. She's a full-on celebrity in Hope Falls because of this. And I don't know if you know, but it's time to start a movement. I already texted that to my whole address book when I watched the first movie, so I'm gonna text them God's Not Dead 2 instead. Also, I guess I don't really understand why I'm doing this. The fact that this movie also attempts to start a cultural revolution via text message just highlights how the cartoonishly unrealistic level of Christian persecution displayed in this movie is not meant to be an artistic exaggeration. They want all Christians to know that, oh, the threat is very real. This is what's happening outside your doors. So you better juice up those jitterbug phones with unlimited text message credits and send Patricia from book club this cryptic message that reads like a terrorist manifesto. Great idea. I remember it was like Thanksgiving once and I got this random text message from an old Facebook contact saying God's not dead, and I was scared. Like, I didn't know the person very well, so I was like, are you okay? And they were like, yeah, that was from a movie. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know you suck. There is an end credit scene which I almost missed, which would have been bad because it sets up what I think is the third movie in the trilogy. There was some foreshadowing towards this when Dave said, God bless you, and he was like, soon you'll be on trial. Then here we go.
You're under arrest.
For what?
Contempt of court. You failed to produce your sermons upon court order.
He's like, phew, for a second I thought you were here for something else. Take me away. I just have to ask my fellow priest friends here to make sure to destroy that hard drive that's hidden under my floorboards. I always gotta say something really shitty at the end. But that's all they wrote for God's Not Dead. Again, God can't be dead because he's more of an idea, but that's okay. What did you think of this one? It's way more courtroomy, where the first one was like college lecture-y, and there's less cancer, there's less people dying, so I mean, in that way it's happier. This movie, the sequel, did get distribution from Universal, and the third movie is called God's Not Dead, subtitle, We the People. So it's kind of like Purge election year, I guess. Let me know if you want to see that in the month of May, and I can get it on the calendar, but otherwise give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more clip breakdowns on PureFlix movies like this. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones every week, so turn on notifications and you'll always be the first to know when I'm God blessing you with another video. Also, I've got merch available and a Patreon where you can access exclusive bonus videos and virtual watch parties. You guys are all the greatest. Thank you so much for Jesus and Christ with me today. I will see you next time.